There are moments in life when everything seems to collapse all at once. You find yourself standing in the wreckage of what was once your hopes, ambitions, and dreams, wondering how you got here. The lowest point, whatever it may be, whether it's the loss of a job, a failed relationship, a personal health struggle, or the suffocating weight of feeling like you've lost yourself, can feel like the end of everything. It's dark, confusing, and painfully isolating. But what if this moment, as harrowing as it seems, could be the catalyst for the most powerful and profound transformation of your life? The lowest point is not the end, but rather a moment that, if approached with a shift in mindset, can become your greatest source of strength and drive. It's often in these darkest moments that we find the clearest understanding of who we are and what we are capable of. It's as if life strips away all the excess, leaving us face to face with our raw, vulnerable selves. In these spaces, growth is not just possible, it's inevitable, provided we are willing to embrace it. Pain, struggle, and hardship, while agonizing in the moment, are often the most fertile grounds for transformation. When you're at your lowest, the illusion of perfection is shattered. You are forced to confront reality as it is, rather than how you hoped or expected it to be. This raw honesty is a gift, albeit one that may not feel like it at the time. The idea that your lowest point can become your biggest drive is rooted in the concept of contrast and perspective. Without experiencing significant lows, it's difficult to fully appreciate the highs. But beyond mere contrast, these low points teach us resilience. Think about it. How often do you look back at a difficult time in your life and realize it made you stronger? It's in the crucible of adversity that you discover your deepest reserves of strength. When you hit rock bottom, there is a sense of finality. There is nowhere else to fall. But in that bottomless feeling, you gain the opportunity to rebuild. You are no longer living in fear of falling because you are already there. What comes next is entirely up to you. Take the story of J.K. Rowling, for instance. Before she became one of the most successful authors in history, she was a single mother living on welfare, battling depression, and struggling to make ends meet. She describes this period as her lowest point, a time when she felt like a complete failure. But instead of succumbing to the weight of her circumstances, she used that low as fuel. She had nothing to lose, and so she poured herself into her writing, channeling her struggles into the creation of a world that would inspire millions. It's no coincidence that the theme of resilience and finding strength in the face of adversity runs deep in her work. Her lowest point didn't define her, it propelled her. This doesn't mean that it's easy or that everyone will instantly find the strength to rise from their struggles. It's crucial to acknowledge that suffering is real and the pain you feel at your lowest is valid. Empathy is key. When you're in the thick of it, the advice to keep going or stay positive can feel almost insulting in its simplicity. The journey from despair to hope isn't a straight line. It's a winding road, full of stops and starts, twists and turns, setbacks, and small wins that might feel insignificant in the grand scheme of things. But every step forward, no matter how small, is progress. And progress is what you should focus on. One of the most important things you can do when you're at your lowest is to shift your perspective, even if only slightly. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" start asking, "What can I learn from this?" This subtle shift in mindset moves you from a position of victimhood to one of empowerment. You may not have control over what has happened, but you have control over how you respond. This response is where your power lies. There's a well-known quote by Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, who said, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." He knew more about suffering than most people, and yet his words point to a universal truth. Our ability to grow often comes from how we choose to face our struggles. Actionable steps are essential in moving forward from a low point. The first is to acknowledge and accept your feelings without judgment. Too often people try to suppress their pain or distract themselves from it, believing that feeling low is a sign of weakness. But real strength comes from allowing yourself to sit with your emotions, to grieve, to be frustrated or disappointed without rushing to fix it immediately. Acceptance doesn't mean resignation. It means facing the reality of the moment so that you can move forward with clarity. Once you've made peace with where you are, the next step is to start small. The temptation to overhaul your entire life in one sweeping gesture is strong, especially when you feel like everything is falling apart. But real, sustainable change comes from small, consistent steps. If you're feeling unmotivated, start by setting one small goal each day, something that feels manageable. It could be as simple as getting out of bed, taking a short walk, or spending 5 minutes journaling your thoughts. These small victories will start to accumulate, build momentum, and over time, rebuild your sense of capability and control. Another key component is to surround yourself with the right environment, both physically and mentally. This could mean seeking out supportive people, whether friends, family, or a community that understands your struggle. If you don't have that support system, there are countless online communities and resources where people share similar stories of adversity. Sometimes, just knowing that you're not alone can make all the difference. Mentally, it's crucial to be mindful of what you're feeding your mind. This is where the concept of neuroplasticity comes into play. Your brain is constantly adapting and changing based on what you expose it to. If you're stuck in a loop of negative self-talk, you'll reinforce those patterns. But if you start to introduce positive, empowering thoughts, however small, they will slowly start to reshape your internal narrative. It's also important to recognize that failure and struggle are not indicators of your worth or potential. Many people internalize their low points, believing that if they've failed or are struggling, it's because they're not good enough, smart enough, or capable enough. But this simply isn't true. Failure is not a reflection of your inherent value. It's part of the process of growth. Every successful person has experienced failure, and often it's those failures that taught them the most valuable lessons. If you can begin to see your low points as opportunities for learning and growth, rather than as indictments of your worth, you'll start to tap into a deeper well of resilience. As you begin to move forward, it's essential to cultivate patience. The road to recovery or improvement is often longer than we'd like it to be. You might find yourself taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back, and that's okay. Progress is not linear. There will be days when you feel like giving up, when the weight of your struggles feels too heavy to bear. But remember this: no feeling is final. The pain, the frustration, the despair, they are temporary. Even if it doesn't feel that way in the moment, emotions ebb and flow, and so too will your circumstances. It's during those moments of difficulty that you must remind yourself of the bigger picture. You are not defined by this one moment in time. You are a work in progress, and every low point is a chapter in the larger story of your life, not the entire narrative. To conclude, your lowest point can indeed become your greatest drive if you allow it to be. It is a crucible that tests your strength, your character, and your resilience. But it is also an invitation to rebuild, to start fresh, and to create a life that is more aligned with who you truly are. Every struggle, every hardship, every failure is an opportunity to learn, grow, and rise stronger than before. It is in these moments of adversity that you find out what you are truly made of. So take it one step at a time. Embrace the small victories, and trust that even in your lowest moments, you are laying the foundation for something greater. The most profound changes often come from the most difficult challenges. Your lowest point isn't the end. It's the beginning of your comeback story.